When I was around 6 years old, my mom began cleaning our church every week as a way to help out the community. At the time, my family was living in a rented farmhouse, and my two older brothers and I had already experienced some strange things there, things my parents never really acknowledged, probably because they were deeply Christian and conservative and didn't like to talk about anything paranormal. One particular day stands out in my memory, though, and it wasn't at the farmhouse, but at the church itself. That afternoon, my mom took us with her while my dad was at work. While she cleaned the main room where the sermons were held, my brothers and I decided to play hide and seek since the church was empty except for us. Most of the lights were off, and the only illumination came from the dim emergency lights casting long shadows down the hallways. I remember it was my turn to be the seeker, so I started walking down one of the long, shadowy hallways, searching for my brothers. For some reason, I felt the urge to look up. When I did, I saw something that has stayed with me ever since. There, crawling on the ceiling, was a black figure about the size of a 6 or 7-year-old child. It had its back to me at first, but when it noticed me, it twisted its head all the way around to look down at me. The face was blurry in the dim light, but I could make out a wide, cartoonish smile and eyes that didn't look human at all. Oddly enough, I wasn't scared. My 6-year-old self just thought, how did my brother get up there? And then I felt the need to leave the hallway. I didn't feel my stomach drop or experience any sense of fear or threat. It just felt like whatever I saw wanted me to move along. So I did. I walked away, and that was that. Later, when I told my brothers what I'd seen, they laughed and called me crazy. They said, there can't be any demons in a church. It's protected by God. My parents agreed, and everyone dismissed it as my imagination. But as I grew older, that memory never faded. It felt too real, too vivid, to be just a dream. I can still describe every detail, from the emergency lights to the way the figure twisted its head and smiled. The church is old, built in 1873, and there's a cemetery on the property with the same name as the church. I learned that later when I started looking into its history. Maybe that has something to do with it. I've heard that children are more likely to have paranormal experiences, and my brothers had their own stories, but those all happened at the house, not the church. It's strange that I was the one who saw something there. Our farmhouse was creepy too. The barn was off limits and gave all of us the creeps. The cows on the land acted strange, and the house just had a weird vibe overall. My brothers remember more about the things that happened there than I do, but I'll never forget that hallway, the emergency lights, and the black figure with the inhuman smile. Was a ghost? A trick of the light? A dream that became a memory? I don't know, but sometimes when I pass that hallway in the church, I still look up, just in case. And in the back of my mind, I wonder if I'll ever see that figure again, watching me from the ceiling, its head twisted around, its smile wide and inhuman. I never grew up religious, but I always had a deep respect for anyone who was. Growing up in the middle of nowhere in Iowa, surrounded by cornfields and open skies, almost everyone around me was Christian, so I was naturally curious about it. My best friend and I are practically family. We've known each other since we were kids, and this year, we're both turning 20. Our little town is tiny, barely 500 people, but somehow there are 5 churches. The biggest one is the Lutheran Church, a towering old building with a long history. During our sophomore year, my best friend and I got a job cleaning that church once a week. We kept at it until we left for college. Our first day was in mid-March, still cold and snowy most of the time, but that day was surprisingly warm. The church itself was a maze, a basement, a main floor, and a split-level second floor. We always called the cafeteria-type room the big room, and it took us the longest to clean because it was huge, with doors leading to the kitchen, stairs, hallways, and outside, and a whole wall of windows on one side. I've always had paranormal experiences, even as a kid, but my best friend never had. That changed when we started cleaning the church. On our first day, she was cleaning the inside and outside of the windows in the big room, and I remember walking into the kitchen and looking through the connecting door. Above her, I saw a dark shadow. I rushed over to ask how she was doing, careful not to startle her, and didn't say a word about what I saw. That same night, it got dark early, and we were in the basement. The basement was just a long hallway with stairs at both ends and a bunch of doors, including 2 bathrooms. It was one of the creepiest places I've ever been. I was down there alone for a few minutes while she went upstairs to fill the mop bucket, and suddenly I heard someone say my name. I turned around, thinking it was her, but it wasn't. There was a tall, dark figure standing on the stairs, just peering around the corner. It was barely a shape, but it had yellow eyes. Seconds later, my best friend walked down the stairs, and we never talked about what had just happened. A few weeks went by, and after a lot of creepy occurrences, we finally brought it up and talked about it. That's when things really started to escalate. She told me that on that first day, while she was cleaning the windows, she felt like someone was watching over her shoulder, angry that we were there. I got immediate goosebumps. After we talked about what had been happening, things got worse around the church. That night, on my way home, I lived just 3 blocks away. I saw a dead cat outside the church. My best friend, who lived 20 minutes away, saw a dead deer on her way out of town. It wasn't uncommon to see dead animals, but the timing and coincidence felt eerie. I started to really get into the history of the church because I had a hard time believing a church could be haunted. One day, while dusting, I found an old photo of the original church members. There was a man in the photo who stood out. He had dark, cold eyes and was significantly taller than everyone else. He was the man we had been seeing. It terrified me, and we both considered quitting. But it was good money, and it was our time to hang out outside of school, so we stuck with it. There were times when my best friend had to leave early for cheerleading or dance, and I'd be left alone in the church. When it got dark, a switch seemed to flip in that place. I've always seen figures since I was a kid, but when my best friend started seeing them too, we knew it wasn't good. We started getting pictures of orbs, finding black salt lining the doors, and seeing weird people hiding in the church. We heard our names being called, clapping, things going missing, and sometimes we were even touched. It started following me home, and my family started seeing things too. I have so many stories about that place. It's like the church itself was alive with something that didn't want us there.